Are you serious? Are you serious? We have breaking news. Breaking news just now happened. Supreme Court has just now ruled that they will hear the case of Donald Trump and whether or not he can have immunity. This is huge, okay? This is huge. Breaking news, Supreme Court. I repeat, the Supreme Court has just now decided 10 minutes ago that they will hear Trump's immunity claim. And just the fact that they said they'll hear it is a huge victory for Trump, because if they'd have said, no, we're not going to hear it, then the trial, the Jack Smith, January 6th, the trial, the documents at Mar-a-Lago, the trying to, all of the different things that they're coming at him, all of that would still be on track, continue, hammer down. Here we go. He'd been at the mercy of the courts. But the Supreme Court just now agreed, and they've decided to former President Donald Trump can claim presidential immunity over criminal election interference charges, adding a new hurdle to the trial taking place. So in other words, the Supreme Court has said, we will hear the arguments, and then we'll decide whether or not or how much immunity a president has. The court, in a brief order, said it would hear the arguments and issue a ruling on the immunity claim. In the meantime, the case is put on hold, meaning no trial can be set, and in other words, it's suspended, and they can't move forward. And that's going to push the trial dates completely back to we don't know when, okay? Now, in order, said the court said they would hear the case, which would take months to resolve, and they're willing to hear the case the week of April 22nd. The legal question the court will decide is whether and if so, to what extent does a former president enjoy presidential immunity from the criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office. Even if Trump loses the trial, even if after Supreme Court hears the arguments on April 22nd, and let's say they take 4 months to decide, the trial then would not take place till well late into the fall, if not into next year. If Trump were to win the ruling, then the charges against the former president would be dismissed. In other words, Jack Smith, goodbye. The whole January 6th thing would be off the table. The documents and the raid on Mar-a-Lago, off the table. He still has to deal with, of course, these judges and the crookedness he's dealing with over in New York. But those things are, of course, he'll have to fight out in the courts over the money and that thing, over the, whether or not he has to pay this money or not. I'm sure he's appealing, and that's a lengthy process, and the court's going to let somebody else decide that. But when it comes to presidential immunity, the Supreme Court is going to rule on this. I'm going to say this. They are going to rule on this. If they weren't even going to hear it, then it's a done deal, and the courts would have done what they wanted. Whether he was guilty or innocent, they had just left it to the mercy of the court. But not now. This is a big win for Trump. Just the simple fact the Supreme Court will hear it. Now, let's say they rule against him. So be it. At least if he didn't have a chance at all, if they didn't hear it. Now, a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia has ruled against Trump on the February 6th, but gave him time to file an emergency request at the Supreme Court that would prevent the decision from going forward with a trial. For the purposes of this criminal case, former President Trump has become a citizen Trump, with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant, according to the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. The court did not directly decide whether Trump was engaged in official acts when he was contesting the election results, But Trump's lawyers have pointed to the 1982 Supreme Court ruling that endorsed presidential immunity from civil lawsuits when an underlying conduct concerns actions within the outer perimeter of the presidential official responsibilities. They argue that the president should have total immunity for official acts as president, and that his actions in questioning the election results were part of his official duties. In other words, it is his fiduciary responsibility to question the results. Now, the lawyers have conceded that a former president can be prosecuted for conduct unrelated to his official duties as president. That makes sense, okay? But in a separate case involving civil claims against Trump for his role on January 6th, a different panel of judges on the same appeals court rejected his immunity claim, ruling that the former president was not engaged in an official act because he was acting in a capacity as a candidate for office. But he's not a candidate because on January 6th, the election was over. He was acting in an official capacity. I mean, I'm just being honest. He wasn't running again. The election was over. Trump opted against appealing that case to the Supreme Court. Instead, Washington-based U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan had originally scheduled the trial for March. It is one of 4 criminal cases that Trump is contesting. If Trump wins the election, though, he would be in a position to order that the charges in Washington cases be dismissed against him. If already convicted at that point, he could still seek to pardon himself. If Trump's prosecution is allowed, then such prosecutions will reoccur and become increasingly common, ushering in a very destructive cycle of criminalizing each party's presidents and his lawyers, wrote in a Supreme Court filing. Special counsel Jack Smith, who is prosecuting the case, said in his own court papers that it was imperative the issue get decided quickly. Well, he may get his wish now that the Supreme Court has stepped in. Delay in a resolution of these charges threatens to frustrate the public interest, he said, in a speedy and fair verdict. A compelling interest in every criminal case, and one that has unique national importance, he wrote. The Supreme Court is a 6-3 conservative majority, with 3 of those judges Trump appointees. And despite the court's ideological makeup, President Trump has lost several recent cases at the Supreme Court, so they don't always go his way. Now, on February 8th, the justices heard arguments in a separate Trump-related case on the former president's attempt to avoid being kicked off the ballot in Colorado. In that case, the court seemed likely to rule in his favor, but they haven't ruled yet. Trump's immunity claim was prompted by a 4-count indictment in Washington, including charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. He has pleaded not guilty. So, Judge Chutkan in December rejected Trump's plea to dismiss that indictment on presidential immunity and other constitutional grounds. But if the Supreme Court rules that Trump is immune from these things, then these cases, all 4 of these felony case, and we're talking a lot of felonies here. I think it's 91 felonies, but it's 4 separate cases. If they rule that he is immune from all that because he was operating in his official capacity, then those all them cases will get dropped. The only thing he'll have left to deal with is the hush money deal and the big case down there, the Loretta James did, and the $450 million they're trying to take out of his pocket. Those he will have to just battle those out in court and in appeals courts and wherever. But as far as disqualification as president, that would go away if the Supreme Court rules in his favor. But here's what they did rule today. They ruled they'll hear the case. I mean, they could have just said, we don't want to hear it. We feel like it's something we don't need to deal with. You guys take care of it at the lower courts. That would have been really, really bad for Trump, I think. But now, the fact the Supreme Court is going to hear it, I think that's a good thing, because no matter which side you stand on this subject, it's better to have a Supreme Court make a final ruling, and let's get on with running a nation. Let's get on, and let's not have each party in criminal acts of prosecuting each other's former presidents. That's ridiculous. We will become a banana republic. We'll become, a communist nation. We'll become another one of those corrupt to the core. We're already corrupt, but we'll be corrupt to the core. Okay? So I thought I would give you this information. It is big news because the Supreme Court is stepping in. But which way will they rule? That's another big question. That's one I can't answer. I know one thing. We talked about some of the I think you guys remember on New Year's Eve when I went through my 24 things to watch for in 2024. One of them, very important one, the Lord revealed to me, was there would be controversial court rulings. Controversial court rulings. And so let's wait and see. I think we already had some. I think this thing down in Manhattan with Loretta James and the $450 million, I think that was totally controversial. I mean, we've never seen anything like that. So let's see what other rulings are coming. Guys, get my book, Revelation 9:11. I'm telling you right now, it's doing great on the pre-sales. Please, if you need to get a copy of it, do this. Everybody needs to. Go to Amazon.com. Go to Amazon.com. I just went there to look and see. We're right now ranked number 21 out of the category Church and State. That's pretty remarkable, really. But if you haven't got yours, pre-order yours because they're shipping March 26th. They're shipping March 26th, guys. They are shipping March 26th. You need to get your copy. That's when Amazon is going to release it. And I tell you, we talk about a lot of stuff in there that is critical to the current events of the nation and of the world and the prophecies and all these things that's going on. And Apollyon coming out of the bottomless pit and what it all means. Guys, we're living in the last days. And order 5 of them. Order 5. Because you'll need to give 4 of them away. I guarantee it. It's shipping out of Amazon March 26th. God bless you. Thank you, guys. And I'll see you guys a little bit later. I'm going to be headed over to the studio to be on the Getting Ready show. I'm co-hosting it tonight with Israel Hall. That should be interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East, too. So, including the Red Heifers. You don't want to miss this. I'll see you tonight.